It's Taco Tuesday. Hey, Sydney here. Welcome back to At the Table. We've got a summer series for you, so focusing on different things related to summer, different foods that are really great for this time of year. And today we are making one of my favorites, which is fish tacos. So we've got some really nice tilapia here, and fish is a really great thing to have during this time of year, just because it's light. It's very low in fat, it's nice and fresh, and that's just something that tastes really good when it's so hot outside. So we're gonna start with actually broiling this fish. So I've got two different seasonings here. We've got some black pepper, and we're just gonna put a little bit of that on there. This is all to taste, so you just add whatever you like. If you're a big black pepper person, you can go crazy with it. If you're not, go a little bit lighter, it's up to you. And then we're gonna add just a little bit of paprika. Make sure my lid's on there because I've had that happen before. And we're just gonna sprinkle this lightly on top. This gives it a really pretty color. You could also use a smoked paprika, which would be really tasty on this recipe. And then you're gonna throw it in your broiler, in your oven on broil for about 6 minutes. And you wanna make sure that your rack is about 6 inches from the broiler at the top. So we're gonna throw that into the oven really quick. And we'll let those cook up really nicely for 6 minutes. So the next thing that we have to go on top of our tacos is a coleslaw. Now this is a different coleslaw. It actually uses ranch dressing, which is different than what we typically have with our southern coleslaws. It's a little bit sweeter, savory. So I just went ahead and bought the tricolor coleslaw. You can absolutely make your own at home if you have the time, but if you're in a pinch for time and you don't want to spend the time cutting up your cabbage, shredding your cabbage, you can just buy the bag of pre-made coleslaw. So we just need 2 cups of this, and I like to get the tricolor one just because it has some really pretty colors all in it, and that makes for a prettier coleslaw. So this one actually has carrots in there as well. And we're just gonna do about 2 cups of that. And we'll set that to the side. Now I have some really good dressing that I have found recently that is a yogurt dressing. So different than, I guess, your typical ranch dressing that's gonna be really high in saturated fat. This one's only about 1/2 gram of saturated fat in 2 tablespoons. It's very low in added sugar as well. So this has been one of my go-tos recently, just to have a healthier option in the fridge for a healthier ranch dressing. So you just need 1/4 cup of this, and I've got my measuring cup here. So it's a little over, but that's all right. And you can use whatever. I mean, we really recommend a fat-free ranch dressing, ideally, just because of that saturated fat content. And that is because foods that are higher in saturated fat do have a negative impact on our heart health. So we want to keep that heart nice and healthy for as long as possible. So I'm just going to fluff this a little bit. And then the last thing that we're going to add is chili powder. That'll give it a little bit of spice for our Mexican flair here with our tacos. So we're just doing 1 teaspoon of chili powder. Now, if that's too much for you, if you're not a spicy person, you can scale that back to 1/2 teaspoon. Chili powder to me is not quite as hot as something like cayenne pepper that can be just really, really strong. If you love spice, you could add some cayenne pepper into there as well. But very simple. We're not going to use a ton of this. Remember, this is just to top our tacos with. So you're probably going to use about a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of this on top of your taco. And you might use this instead of something like sour cream or cheese, something like that. You've got a little bit of dairy in here through your ranch dressing. All right, so we're gonna give that just another minute. Our fish is almost done, and when we see you back, we'll pull that out of the oven.
You're out for an evening on the town. Finally a chance to relax and forget that you left your front door completely unlocked. Fortunately, you just installed a security system from Star Communications. With just your cell phone, you can check on your house, lock it down, light it up, and get back to relaxing.
You forgot to put Buster in his crate.
Unfortunately, we can't help with that. Security and automation from Star Communications. Call today to find out more.
All right, so we got our fish out of the oven. It is looking so good, smelling good. And one trick to know if it's done is by checking to make sure that it flakes. So you can see that this is nice and flaky, and you don't want it to kind of look gooey in the middle. That can signify that it's not cooked all the way. The best way to know that it is done is by using a digital thermometer and making sure that it gets to 145 degrees. So our fish are cooked to 145. We were actually just talking about the best way that we know is by using that thermometer, because when I don't use my thermometer, I tend to overcook things. We tend to overcook more than undercook. So that way our fish is not dry. It still is nice and fresh and juicy. So we'll throw this back over here, and we are gonna move on to some salsa. So this is a really great salsa that for this time of year, because it uses so many different vegetables that are in season at the moment. So what we've got first is our onion. So we're gonna use a little bit of red onion. And I went ahead and peeled this just to save a little bit of time. But the best way is to chop off the end that we always call the end with the hair. Chop that off, and then you're gonna just, you're gonna keep your hair. So keep the other end that has the hair, cut off the stem part. And then I like to cut it in half. And we're only gonna use half a cup of red onion, so we're not gonna use this whole thing anyways. But your trick for cutting an onion, first off, hold your chef's knife really nicely and right at that base. Make sure you have nice, good hold on that. And then you're actually just going to cut in the little grooves of the onion. Watching those fingers, you're not actually gonna cut all the way through. You see that I still have the root end connected there. And then you are just going to cut the opposite direction. And you're gonna already have diced up pieces of red onion. So super quick, super easy. That's probably half a cup, so we'll stop there. And I'm just gonna cut it just a little bit more. Really, it depends on how big of the onion pieces you want. I'm not a huge red onion person, not a huge onion person in general. It does kind of give me a little bit of indigestion, so I try not to use a whole lot of it. But if you love onions, you can adjust based off of that. That one is ripe. It's making me cry a little bit. All right, so we're gonna move on to our next vegetable, and that is cucumber. And cucumbers are definitely in season right now. You can probably get them in your yard if you have a nice garden. So we're just gonna cut these up into small little diced pieces. Remember, this is salsa, so you want it to be nice and fine. So I'm keeping the tip of my knife on my cutting board and just working my way down. And we only want a 1/4 cup of cucumber. So we don't need a whole lot of that. So I cut it long ways, and then I'm gonna cut it the opposite way, turning my cucumber. And that's probably a 1/4 cup. I might have cut a little bit too much. Move that to the side. And we'll just throw that in with the rest of our onion. And you can measure these ingredients if you want to. I'm just kind of eyeballing it based off of our recipe and how much that it calls for. So next we've got a 1/4 cup of bell pepper. It actually calls for a green bell pepper. I have an orange one. That's okay. Use whatever you've got in your pantry. Does not really matter. They do have a little bit of a flavor difference, but I like the orange ones a little bit better. They're a little sweeter. Another tip is that if you look at the bottom of your bell pepper, if it's got, I guess, 4 little nodules there, there's usually 4 or 3. If it's got 4, that means it's a female bell pepper. It's a little bit sweeter. The ones that have 3 are typically what we call the male bell peppers, and they are not quite as sweet. So these are really good if you want to use this in a salsa. The ones that have 3 are a little bit better if you are doing that in something like a stir fry that you maybe don't want that sweetness. So we're gonna top and tail our bell pepper. So I'll cut off the top, and then I cut off the bottom. Now your tip here is to push out that stem. So it's actually already kind of pulled out. But now I can use that entire top so I have less food waste. And we don't have any seeds because all the seeds are right in the middle of our bell pepper. And I'm probably just gonna use the top and the bottom because again, we only need a 1/4 cup. All right, so I cut it long ways, turn it, and then I'm gonna cut it the opposite direction. Watching my fingers, keeping the tip of my knife on the board, and just working my way down. And I'm gonna finely chop it just a little bit more. And we're gonna run to a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna finish up the rest of our vegetables in our salsa.
Sweetie, will you turn that down, please?
Keep life exciting, even when it's not. Watch TV everywhere from Star Communications.
All right, so we've got half of our vegetables in. We're gonna finish with the rest. So this is a mango, and you could absolutely substitute this for something else that's in season right now. So I'm actually gonna add a peach in with this. I'm gonna do both because I love mangoes, I love peaches, so why not use them both? But if you wanna use something to make this more of a summer season salsa, you could use peaches. And these are actually fresh peaches from my director here at the extension office. She has a peach tree in her yard and brought a bucket for us, and they are so good when they're fresh and ripe. So we are gonna add that to it. So with our mango, best way to know how to select a mango is, well, one person told me you could smell it. Might not want to do that in the grocery store right now. People might look at you a little funky, and you might have a mask on, so you might not be able to smell it as well. But another way, just like avocados, is to give a little press into it, and if it has some give, it's likely ready. If it starts to get really yellow and really red, it could be too ripe, and then you might have some brown spots in there as well. So I think this one's ready. So we're gonna go ahead and cut right into it. This is something you have to be extremely careful with because with a mango, it is hard on the outside and extremely slippery on the inside. So but there's a giant seed in the middle. So when I do this, I can't go any further. So you're just gonna cut around, again, being extremely careful. And then the best way is to just peel the mango with your fingers. And if it's ripe enough, it should peel right off. I don't like to use a knife to get the peeling off. Again, I said it's extremely slippery, so it's a lot easier and less risky if you go ahead and just use your fingers. Now, I'm not going to use this whole thing because we're going to use a peach as well. The recipe does call for 1 mango finely chopped, so we're just going to use half of that, and then we're going to use a whole peach. So a good tip for you is to keep half the skin on. That way you have better control of the mango. It's not as slippery. And then you just work your way down. As I said, there is a seed in the middle. So once you get to that seed, you can see the white fleshy part of the seed here already. So I can't go any further on that side. Typically, I would then turn it, work the other way, turn it again, work the other way. But like I said, we're not using this whole thing. So I'm gonna keep half of that skin intact. So we'll save this for another day. And we'll just chop this up finely. So I'm just gonna, again, like I have been with the rest of my vegetables and fruits, cut long ways. And then we'll cut the opposite direction. And as far as saving produce, so you saw that I was gonna save half of that mango for later. A good tip for you is it depends on the temperature of your refrigerator. So most things will keep for 7 days if your fridge is 41 degrees, or 41 degrees or less. Everything will keep in your fridge for at least 7 days. Now the quality may be different. So for instance, this cucumber here could start to get kind of slimy. It might not be as good after 7 days. Quality is a little different than food safety. So safe-wise, you could eat that after 7 days. It would still be okay. But as far as the quality, it might not taste as good. So some of those things are dependent. And then there's certain vegetables that do better, maybe wrapped in a towel to help soak up some of that moisture. So something like a cucumber that has a lot of water content, I might wrap this in a towel to soak up some of the moisture, and that'll help it to last a little bit longer. Other things might do better with saran wrap. So the true key is your temperature of your fridge. So along with the thermometer, make sure that you have a thermostat in your fridge, or thermometer in your fridge as well, to tell you what the temperature is. So next we've got our peach. We're gonna use this whole thing because it is very ripe and it is ready to be used. So similar to my mango, I'm just working my way around because again, we've got that pit in the middle. So this isn't quite as slippery, but man, it's just falling right off. And I'll just use my fingers for the rest of it. You can save that seed, plant it for later. And you can use the entire part of the peach. Usually I cut off a little bit of the top if there's any type of stem, which this one doesn't seem to have it. So we're just gonna keep rolling with it. If you have any bad spots, so this one kind of looks a little brown, you might just cut some of that off and discard it. Put it in your compost pile if maybe you have one of those. We'll chop this whole thing up. And it smells so good. Peaches are just something, you know, we don't get them all year round. So when they're in season and they're ripe and they're fresh, man, it tastes like summertime, and it is one of my favorite parts of summer. All right, so I'm gonna finish up this peach, and then we also have some cilantro. I'll cut a little bit of this up as well, and we'll join you back with our salsa all ready.
After completing my contract, I still have to buy out of it? Come on. Here's your sign.
Switch to the sign that's keeping home secure and customers happy all over the area. Security from Star Communications. We pride ourselves on fair pricing and quick, friendly service every time.
Somebody try to break into this place?
Security from Star Communications.
All right, our salsa is ready. So the last couple ingredients I added here with some chili powder. We did 1.5 teaspoons of that. We also added fresh cilantro. So fresh herbs are in season right now. Definitely, if you don't have an herb garden, it's one of the easiest things you can do. You just need a shady spot, and then just make sure that you water it regularly. But cilantro is very easy to grow, basil, parsley, all of those, and they completely change up the flavor of your dish. So we've added some cilantro, and then the last thing we did was added the juice of 1 lime. So we're just gonna mix all of that up. And we've got, remember, the mango, the cucumber, the onions, peaches, which are not part of our traditional recipe, but it's in season. And we want to use up that produce that we have on hand. And we have I think I've said everything. The cilantro and the lime juice. A little bit of chili powder. Again, if you're not a big chili powder person, you can adjust as needed based on your level of spice. So that is ready. And next we're gonna build our taco. So we've got our fish all done. So I'm just gonna take a nice piece of fish here and throw that onto my taco. I'll cut the other one in half because these are kind of big pieces of tilapia. And you can adjust, these are smaller tortillas. I am using the corn tortillas. This is the white corn tortillas. We were actually just talking about the nutrition label of this because it is so good. The main ingredient is whole grain corn. So if you didn't know, corn is considered a whole grain. So in this form, corn tortillas are gonna be better than that flour tortilla unless you can find a whole wheat flour tortilla. But this actually only has 15 milligrams of sodium, which is 1% of your daily value, no sugar added. So this is a great option. And corn is typically gluten-free, but you do need to check on the manufacturer to make sure there's no cross-contamination there. So we're gonna add our salsa. And you can add as much or as little as you like of this. Gives it that really pretty color. And lastly, I had off camera over here, is our coleslaw that we made at the very beginning. And we're just gonna add a little bit of that. Now, other things that you could add on top of this, you could absolutely do some salsa if you like salsa added to it. I'm gonna skip on all this because it looks so good with just what we've used here. You could also add some hot sauce if you're a hot sauce fan, so make it a little bit spicier. I think that would go really tasty with the fruit in there, so sweet and spicy combination. If you're a big sour cream person, I use non-fat Greek yogurt, just the plain. Don't buy vanilla, that'd be weird, but plain is actually a really good substitute for sour cream. So it doesn't have any fat in it and it's got a lot of protein. Your Greek yogurt is extremely high in protein. So this is a really great option to substitute in place of sour cream. And I mean, you use it for all different kinds of things in your home as well. A lot of times sour cream, you might just have one use for it. But Greek yogurt, you can end up using it in breakfast dishes. You can end up pairing it, actually pair it with cottage cheese and mix it together and add a little bit of stevia to it. And that's something that I eat for breakfast with fresh fruit. It's really good. So you can do a lot with this. So if you want to add that to your taco, go for it. The other thing I wanted to mention is the cookbook I got this from. So this is actually from one of our programs here at the Cooperative Extension office that we do through NC State, and that's called Steps to Health. We also have other programs called Faithful Families and FNEP that we do still offer here at the Extension office. And they all have the same exact cookbook, so no matter which of those programs you get, you would still get this cookbook. These tacos are on the front of the page. So that is how good they are. They look so tasty, and I have heard since I started at Extension 4.5 years ago that these are the best thing in this cookbook. So I was really excited to make these. And it's got tons of different information inside. It also has those tips for storage, planning, your food pantry stuff, and then it's actually got some exercise tips at the back as well. So it's not just a cookbook, it's kind of like a whole all-in-all wellness type of book for you. So if you're ever interested in any of those programs, we always give these as a freebie for joining those programs. So check us out there. This is our summer series. So I did also want to talk about the Visit NC Farms app. We do have Sampson County on the map for that. So if you go to visitncfarms.com and look up Sampson County, you can see all of the local farms in Sampson County where you can buy local produce that's definitely going to be in season right now. So check that out, get some fresh local produce right now while it's available, and I hope that you try these tacos and enjoy them.